Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ron, and today we're going to be doing updated builds for the Jury Rigged Boomstick, which is a super fun weapon, and it's a weapon I haven't talked about in quite a while. So for this, I'll be giving you two builds that I use pretty often without overclocks. That'll be a general purpose build and then a damage build, and then we'll be going over all the overclocks and the builds that I use for them. So, in Tier 1, we have extra ammo or extra damage. This gives us 3 more damage per pellet, which is pretty great because we do fire out a lot of pellets. Usually I go with the extra ammo though. The 8 extra shells can be pretty useful. And the base damage with the boomstick is definitely enough to one-shot normal grunts. It's usually enough to one-shot slashers at close range. In Tier 2, we have increased rate of fire. This increases our rate of fire a lot. You can fire one barrel in the other pretty much instantly. Or we have the quick fire ejector, which gives us a faster reload speed. Usually I like going with the faster reload speed. The double barrel already reloads fairly quick, but I do like the faster reload. Makes it so there's less downtime when I switch between the weapons. In Tier 3, our options are stun. This makes it so all of our pellets have an extra 20% chance to stun, as well as our stun duration is increased from 2.5 seconds to 6 seconds, which is a very long stun duration. Stun can be pretty useful, especially against large enemies. Besides that, we get extra ammo, so we can hold 12 rounds more. And we have high capacity shells. This gives us 3 more pellets per shot. So we go from 8 pellets up to 11 pellets, which is a lot of damage. Usually I'll go with either the high capacity shells here, or I'll go with the extended ammo bags. In Tier 4, we have blow through rounds. This gives us 3 penetration, so we can punch through up to 3 enemies with our shotgun. That can be really good. The shotgun's great for wave clear. Armor breaking, this gives us more single target damage. So if you want to shoot a Praetorian in the face or something, this is great for that. And then we have improved blast wave. This gives us an additional 20 damage to our blast wave, so we're dealing 40 damage. This is a cone in front of the shotgun that reaches out 4 meters, and this is by default. We already have 20 damage and this 4 meter reach. This is why you can shoot this just over the top of certain enemies and kill enemies that are closer to you. This is great for clearing out swarmers or jellyfish or anything like that. Just wait for them to all kind of congregate around you, or as close as you really want them to get, and then fire the shotgun, usually at them, and you'll kill everything directly in the cone of the shotgun blast. So this one can be pretty useful too for just dealing extra AoE damage to enemies. Usually I go with the super blow through rounds here. It's pretty nice for clearing up hordes, but the armor breaking is pretty great if you want to kill big stuff, and even shockwave's not bad. And then in Tier 5, we have an auto reload. This makes it so once we unequip our weapon, if we keep it unequipped for 5 seconds, then it will reload automatically. This is the same thing as Born Ready, so if you're taking Born Ready, don't take this one. Our second option is Fear the Boomstick. This makes it so every time that we shoot the shotgun, there is a chance to fear enemies within 5 meters of you. Our last one is White Phosphorus Shells. This converts 50% of our damage, both from the pellets and from the blast wave, to fire damage. That can then light enemies on fire. This one's pretty useful too. Usually I go with Fear the Boomstick here, but the White Phosphorus rounds are also really good. So now with the general purpose build out of the way, let's talk about a damage build. Usually I go with the double-sized buckshot here in Tier 1 for that. I'll go with double trigger so that we can fire out our shots even faster. I usually like going with the high capacity shells, although extra ammo is pretty nice here in Tier 3 as well. But this makes it so that we're dealing 15 damage per pellet, and we're firing at 11 pellets. We will deal a lot of damage. This one is more specialized towards killing big stuff because this is definitely overkill for regular crowds. You will, without a doubt, destroy regular grunts, slashers, and usually guards with this without any trouble. In Tier 4, you could go with armor breaking rounds if you want to hurt big things even more. I like taking the blow through rounds though too. Blow through rounds is really useful against crowds because even though this is overkill, you're guaranteed to kill pretty much everything that you hit, so blowing through everything also kind of makes sense. And then Tier 5, I usually like the Fear. Fear is just really good for keeping you safe. White Phosphorus Shells is an option too. You can light a bunch of enemies on fire, although if you're planning on using this against crowds, with the blow through rounds it's less useful because you're probably killing everything that you're hitting, at least normal enemies. And you don't necessarily need to light the big enemies on fire, but you could to potentially get additional status effects on them or help out your team in that way. Usually I'll take this build on things like elimination missions, and sometimes on like escort missions if I just want to destroy the rocks really quick. I don't take this build super often. Usually I take the general purpose build for most missions, because with this one I don't have a whole lot of shotgun shells and you can eat through the ammo pretty quick. So let's move on to the overclock. And double barrel has a really weird spread of overclocks. I kind of wish that they would be changed, because no other weapon has 4 clean overclocks, 1 balanced, and 1 unstable overclock. It really feels odd to me. So first up we got compact shells. This one gives us 6 additional ammo and cuts down our reload speed by 0.2 seconds. This one is just a straight buff, and you can build the shotgun however you'd like, so whatever your favorite build is for the shotgun, this one should work just fine. If you like the general purpose build, so something like this, it'll work just fine. If you like the damage build, something like that, it will also work just fine. Moving on to our second clean overclock, we have double barrel. This one is, honestly, I would say kind of a downgrade to the shotgun. This is one of the few overclocks that I really feel should get buffed in a significant way, because currently it's not that great. It kind of gets outshined by all the other overclocks for the shotgun. So what this does is makes it so whenever you fire the shotgun, you are forced to fire out both barrels. You can't fire one barrel at a time anymore, so you have to shoot both of them. This does give you 1 additional damage per pellet, which is kind of nice, but when we already have a clean overclock that gives us 1 additional pellet and 1 additional damage per pellet, it gets directly outshined by that. This one makes it so the shotgun is not so great at dealing with crowds, because firing both barrels into crowds is just not very ammo efficient. You'll run through ammo pretty quick. You're definitely going to kill whatever you hit. You don't need to build damage at all for this, because the base double barrel can already kill crowds very fast. So in tier 1, I go with extra ammo. This is just so that we have extra shots. Tier 2, there's no reason to go with double trigger because our rate of fire doesn't matter. Once we fire once, that's all of our shots. So the faster reloads make the most sense here in tier 2. In tier 3, I will once again usually go with extra ammo. Sometimes I'll go with extra pellets. That can be useful if I just want to take this on an elimination mission and kill dreadnoughts. It's also okay if I only want to use this on like Praetorians, oppressors, wardens, or menaces, anything like that. The pellets are pretty nice. If I do plan on using this towards crowds at any point, I'll usually go extra ammo though. In tier 4, I go with blow-through rounds. This is just so if I do need to use this against crowds, it can work pretty well against them. You could go with the armor breaking and have this very focused towards single target damage, and that's okay too. And then in tier 5, I go with Fear the Boomstick. This does trigger up fairly often and makes you pretty safe when you do fire it, though. That is one positive to double barrel. Our third clean overclock is Special Powder. Special Powder gives us no additional damage bonuses. This just makes it so you can jump with the shotgun. So once you fire this at the ground, so long as you're off the ground, you will then fly in the opposite direction of which you fired the shotgun. This can be very useful for getting around the map quickly. It can also be very useful for resetting falls, because if you're falling and you point this at the ground and fire it, you will reset your fall, or reset your fall to some extent, so you won't be falling as fast. It can really save your life in that regard. You can also fling yourself up higher than you normally would, and combined with the grappling hook or combined with Overclock with the M1000, you can almost completely negate fall damage altogether. If you're a big fan of hover boots, but you feel like it's taking up too much of a perk slot, then you're probably going to be a real big fan of Special Powder, because you don't need to run hover boots if you have this. So with this one, I like going extra ammo in tier 1, faster reload speed in tier 2. This helps us when we're falling, so if I forgot to reload the shotgun, we can at least reload the shotgun a little bit faster. In tier 3, I like going with extra ammo because we're mostly going to be using this to kind of bounce around the area with. Tier 4, all of these are great options. I'll usually go with blow-through rounds because it can be useful against crowds, but armor breaking is decent against bigger enemies, and even the blast wave is quite good against smaller enemies like swarmers and like the jellyfish. And then in tier 5, I usually go with Fear the Boomstick, but the white phosphor shells is also pretty good with this one. You could alternatively run auto reload, so if you're not running Born Ready, then you don't have to ever worry about reloading this mid-air. And then our fourth overclock is Stuffed Shells. This gives us 1 more pellet and 1 more damage per pellet. This one is just a straight upgrade from the regular shotgun, and any build that you put with it is going to be stronger. Usually I like just going with a general purpose build, so something like this. But if you like going with a damage build, maybe something like this, or something like that. You can really build this however. It's kind of boring since the Boomstick has so many overclocks kind of like this. With the clean ones, where you can really build them just about however you want and they'll work just fine. So let's move on to the balanced overclock, which is Shape Shells. Shape Shells reduces our base spread by 50%. So our shotgun has a much tighter grouping. Now this comes at the cost of 1 less pellet per shot, so we do lose out on damage. However, the increased accuracy that we get out of this usually makes up for that, because it's far easier to hit weak spots with this 50% spread reduction. Now there is a really weird bug that I have happen fairly often with this particular overclock, and that's that my crosshairs don't display correctly. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're the regular double barrel crosshairs, and sometimes they are quite a bit smaller. It doesn't seem to actually affect performance in-game. I still have the reduced space spread, but my crosshairs just don't display correctly. The way that I usually build this one is going with extra ammo in tier 1. That one's just really nice. Extra damage is also really good with this one though. Even though we are losing out on damage, Like I said, with the increased accuracy, we can usually get more weak spot damage and usually do more damage than we normally would with the double barrel. Either of these are great. Tier 2, I like going with the faster reloads, but if you like the faster rate of fire, take that one. Tier 3, I take the high capacity shells. This is just to make up our pellets, so we can still do really high damage and we'll still be killing crowds very fast with this. Tier 4, I like going with the armor breaking, but the blow through rounds are also really useful. I find the blow through rounds to be a little bit less useful with this one, just because we don't have as big of a spread with the double barrel as usual. It can still be pretty nice if you can line up 2 or 3 grunts at a time though and just punch right through them. And then in Tier 5, I like going with Fear the Boomstick or the white phosphorus shells. Just depends on what I want to run. And then our final overclock is jumbo shells. This gives us 8 more damage per pellet, which is a lot, but we lose out on 10 total ammo and we have a slightly longer reload time. It's not that much longer, 2.5 seconds isn't that bad, and if you take the faster reloads, which I like to do in Tier 2, it's about the same as the base double barrel, a little bit quicker than it normally would be. That's not a huge issue. The big issue is the ammo count. Now for this, I usually go with expanded ammo in Tier 1. This kind of counteracts that, so we're up to 22 shells plus 2 in it, so we have 24 shots in total. In Tier 3 though, I do really like going the high capacity shells because then we have 11 pellets doing 20 damage each. This again is super overkill for any sort of smaller enemies, even against like guards it's kind of overkill. But it does make it so you can rip through like Praetorians, Oppressors, Menaces, anything big very, very fast. In Tier 4, I'll go with the blow through rounds because if I do need to use this against crowds, it's pretty effective against crowds. Even if I get a bad spread pattern, you'll still be doing so much damage that you'll likely be half healthing most of the enemies that you're hitting. And then in Tier 5, I really like Fear the Boomstick so that we can kind of scare away enemies. So this is the way that I build the Boomstick with all of its overclocks. Most of them are pretty straightforward. You can build them a lot of different ways. I would recommend ammo for like the jumbo shells, and I would recommend pellets for the shape shells. But outside that, you can kind of just build whatever you want on the double barrel. It'll probably work pretty well. I find the double barrel to be surprisingly flexible. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this kind of helped you out. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. And if you would like to be a part of that, you can. There is links down in the description of this video. Thanks everybody who does that. I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!